Okay, am I
You're
back?
live.
There we go. Hello, Kayla. Where are you from?
Hi, my name is Kayla. I'm from Toronto, Canada. I'm actually
Cool.
located in Ottawa right now, so I go to university here and
Which university?
Carleton University.
Oh, nice.
So I'm studying industrial design, and that's kind of how I came upon e-NABLE just this past year, and I'm looking to start up a chapter here in Ottawa.
Nice. Have you done any enable work previously?
So I was actually in the Netherlands for the past year, and there was where I discovered e-NABLE. Then I printed one of the devices right here. Yeah. And yeah, so it's been about half a year that I've known about e-NABLE, and I did open the chapter here. And right now we're just trying to kind of make some connections at the university and see how we can, be collaborating with the school.
Great. I'm just trying to remember. There's a we've collaborated with a Canadian university in the past. Chang Lu was a student there.
Would it have
And
been Waterloo?
say it again.
Waterloo, maybe?
Uh, it may have been. It'll come back. It'll come back to me. Well, that's great. And connecting with the university is terrific. And finding a recipient, a local recipient, um, is the challenge and the opportunity. That's really where the rubber meets the road. Um, and for that, there is an organization, a Canadian organization called Makers Making Change. They are not focused on prosthetics, but they are very well involved in making assistive devices using 3D printers. And so that's another opportunity. And in fact, because there are far more people who need various assistive devices than there are people who need prosthetics, I would encourage you to expand your reach and look in that direction. They also may be able to connect you with some people who need devices.
Okay.
What kinds of questions do you have for us?
Yeah, so my main question is kind of regarding liability. I've had some
Ah,
questions from my university and from kind of the lawyers at the school regarding if there were to be legal action, how would that be handled? And just kind of curious how other chapters that might be associated with a university or institution like that have handled it.
these risk managers at the various universities are notorious, and they vary from place to place. Um, this concern comes up all the time. We had it when we started Enable 12 years ago,
Hmm.
and we looked into it and we thought about liability insurance. We ended up not getting liability insurance. There have been zero cases that have actually led to a complaint. It could happen, but it doesn't. There are, in America and elsewhere, there are Good Samaritan laws. And we do have disclaimers that we ask recipients to sign in advance, in which we explain that we're a volunteer organization. These are not medical devices. You should get medical advice on this, but we are here to help, um, et cetera, et cetera. And we can get you that document.
Hmm.
Um, as I say, there haven't been any liability cases in 12 years, and there are lots and lots of university chapters that have all decided that this is like selling shoes. It doesn't require liability insurance, even though those are devices that you put on an extremity and in which an accident could happen.
Yeah. Okay. I guess my follow-up question would be when you come across outside parties who kind of have questions regarding um, I guess, skepticism regarding quality assurance and things like that. How do you approach those conversations?
I give them a little sermon like this. I say, most prosthetics, most upper limb prosthetics, even medical grade prosthetics, are unused more often than they are used. People typically put them on for special activities and they take them off for a lot of the rest of the time. Nonetheless, they are recommended in many cases and they're useful. But we have found, especially when working with children who are often the recipients of enabled devices because they're not typically eligible for medical grade prosthetics. And medical grade prosthetics are sort of heavy and clunky and interfere with the activities that kids like to engage with. We've found that the psychological and social benefits of our devices are more important than the functional benefits of the devices.
Mhm.
We find that kids recipients think of the devices, and in Canada, they're often superhero themed devices, as you know, are really cool. Furthermore, their friends think that they're really cool and that the guy who got the device is really lucky. This really changes the way the recipient and his friends think about the devices
Mhm.
and think about themselves. Now, if they're not wearing a prosthetic, it's because they have a choice. And so we have lots of enabled recipients who will not. We've heard many times about kids who will bring their enabled hand to school on the first day of class, and that becomes the way they introduce themselves to their friends. And after that, typically they don't wear it. But now they're the cool kid instead of the weird kid.
Mhm. Yeah.
We've actually seen the same kind of pattern in adults fairly often that uh, they have the device, they may wear the device, but the most important function of the device is social and psychological. I give talks on this, and you can find a YouTube video in which I talk about it. But um, we had one guy who was holding the hand of his 3-year-old daughter. He had been out of work after losing his limb. I said, "So it's great that you're back at work. What's the most useful thing you do with your device?" And he said, "What are you kidding? It's this." He was holding his little daughter's hand with his prosthetic device. Another guy says, "Well, when I go out drinking with my buddies, if they want to do a fist bump, I can do a fist bump." The enabled devices are absolutely less robust and less functional than many medical grade prosthetics. Nonetheless, they seem to be really helpful for people with those kinds of challenges. We don't pretend that they're medical grade devices. We certainly don't pretend that they're going to solve all problems or that they're as functional as a hand, but they can be very supportive additions to the life of someone who's lost a limb.
Thank you. Yeah. And in terms of collaboration with other groups, I know you
Yeah.
mentioned the makers making change, like groups like that. Um, let's say it's so we have like a new club coming up in the university. They're doing some prosthetics development. If we're working with them as e-NABLE, do we still function under e-NABLE's name in that case if we're
Oh,
kind of
absolutely. Absolutely. The Enable chapters, first of all, Enable is not a centralized organization. You're looking at the founder, you're looking at one of our regular activities. This is about all we do, is we orient uh, members and chapters to sort of the local culture. We point out that there's an Enable map, there's the hub where you can collaborate with other groups, but the chapters are autonomous. And provided that they're not charging for their time And provided that they're not um, doing something that is counter to our recommendations, they are encouraged to develop their own relationships with other organizations, to develop their own pipelines to recipients, and they are encouraged to share what they're doing on the e-NABLE Hub so that other people can learn from their example and offer help when you need it.
Hmm. Okay. And do you know of any chapters that have done a collaboration like that with another group or organization?
Yeah,
And then,
if you have you signed up to the e-NABLE Hub? If
yeah,
you do a search there, you'll find lots of cases. If you search for the phrase "makers making change," one word, you'll find a number of times when they've been recommended. I think you'll find a number of cases where people have done that kind of thing.
okay. And have you seen if there's like a collaboration with a medical professional, does that change anything in terms of liability concerns?
In terms of liability, it will probably only make things more complicated, but it's a really good thing to do. If you can find a local prosthetist or a local surgeon, you will often find that the surgeons are more sympathetic because they don't have concerns about volunteers putting them out of work. But there are prosthetists who also recognize that there are cases they can't support that would benefit from this kind of thing.
Mhm.
And if you can find one of them, it's a great thing to do. It won't really influence the liability story. They may have their own liability concerns, but they typically will have professional insurance.
Okay.
It may help you get someone who can reassure the risk managers at your university,
Hmm.
but it won't really have much impact on risk.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. I think that's all my questions for now. That helps a lot.
Okay. Um, Sarah, would you dig up or share with Kayla our liability statements? We have had them in the past. I don't know if we have them handy. We should, so it should be part of our bag of tricks.
Yeah, I can.
And Kayla, by all means, introduce yourself and tell your story in the e-NABLE Hub
Mhm.
and ask about other groups in Canada that either are e-NABLE chapters or who might know recipients or who might have experience working with makers making change.
Mhm. Yeah, I'll definitely look into that group. Thank you. I have actually contacted the group at the other University Waterloo, and they're kind of functioning under a kind of a club at their university, the Student Innovation Center. So in that sense, I think the university is more kind of open, and less worried about potential risks. At my school right now, I think the way we're introducing it seems like it's a standalone kind of group that we're running. And so now we're
Right.
trying to be connected with more of a research group that's existing at the university.
Yeah, that's great. One of the reasons, well, there are also e-NABLE chapters and e-NABLE labs at various universities, which obviously have already worked these issues out. Brandeis in Boston has got quite a well-established program there. And Ian, what's his last name, Sarah?
I think I
Ian
can.
at Brandeis.
Yeah, is it Roy?
Yes, Ian Roy. Thank you. Um, Also runs our education
Sorry,
workshops.
I was muted. I'm sorry. Ian
That's
Roy.
okay.
Ian
That's
Roy,
okay.
that's
We got
correct.
it. She,
Yeah.
she actually already knew of him. So he can give some background on how at least Brandeis has dealt with the liability issues. And going to the next education meeting like this one is probably a good thing for you to do.
Mhm.
Did I answer your last question or did I go off on a riff?
No, that's fine. Yeah, I have seen the waiver. That's very helpful. I think
Okay. Oh, good.
for us, I think from the sounds of it, the best way would be to associate ourselves with another group and just to have more of that conversation with the risk manager at
You
the
know,
school.
that's always a good, that's right. That's always a good idea. And, you know, if you need a note that from the founder of e-NABLE, I'm happy to write that kind of thing.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
mm, One of the reasons the chapters are autonomous is because each of them has to figure out how to fit into their local ecosystem. So this is something you're going to have to figure out, but I think you're doing a good job.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, the one thing he did mention is we kind of said what would be kind of your asks from us to, move this along. And they did say maybe a statement saying that you've opened the chapter with e-NABLE and it's going to be like just to say that we've started. Is that a
Sure.
possibility? No, if we were to ask for that?
Yes, indeed. If you give a little bit more information, like who should we address it to? What kinds of concerns do they have? Actually, send it to Sarah. She can draft the letter. I put it on e-NABLE letterhead. I'll be happy to put my signature under it. And Sarah, I can work with you on the letter if you have any issues. But
I'm
we
gonna
can
put my
certainly do that. Uh,
I'm gonna put my
Again, you'll
email
see
address
that,
in.
like what I've said to you right now, it's going to be fairly generic, but it can be fairly reassuring, I think.
Yeah, just to have it documented as well, I think is quite helpful for
Um,
them.
Checking with other active or healthy e-NABLE chapters. Let me just look up where Chang, what university she was at. May have been Waterloo. I'm surprised I've forgotten, but it's been a while already.
Thanks, Sarah. I see your email.
Sarah Day. I'm getting closer. Her co-author was Sarah. Oh, she was at strath.ac.uk. Hang on. University of Strathclyde, which I guess is not even in Canada. It's in London.
Okay.
But let me just confirm that.
We do have a city called London in Canada, but might not be the one.
University of Strathclyde in Glasgow. Well, that's exactly right. That was just a memory glitch on my part.
Okay.
Um, and they have a prosthetics school there. At Waterloo, I have spoken at Waterloo in the past, and they do have quite an active, or did have quite an active innovation program. Finding another Canada school, sort of a comparable school that has already worked this out, is probably your what will be most persuasive. Risk managers don't like taking risks. That's their job. So if you say, look, these guys already did it, they'll say, okay, this is something I don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
And you can use our map to explore other Canadian chapters.
Right. Yes.
And you know how to find the map, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Mhm. Great. Thank you. I think that's
Okay,
a good starting point for me. It's good to know that you guys would be open to writing something if that's needed, but I'll follow up with that with more information if we need it.
very good. Um, well, Sarah, while we're here, is there anything we should talk about relevant to chapters? And if not, we could end the meeting and then just catch up since we're both in the same place at the same time. And Kayla, you're welcome to stick around.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we could end the meeting and have a few things that we could catch up on.
Okay, okay.
So yeah, I'm just gonna end the live stream. Thank you, Kayla, for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you both.